Alright, so when I did the recording, it seemed that it didn't actually take the correct mic. So let's try this again. I was playing around with the Unity MLAgents. As can be seen here, this is my little environment I made. Just gonna wait and see here. So the goal for the MLAgent is that all these colliders here will give points, and the square is the goal. So every single little collider you see will give it points, and then if it falls off the edge, it will lose points. It'll also gain points whenever it approaches one of the correct colliders, as we can see here in the code. So first we have the goal, which is given to it, and then we have an array of 8 game objects, which is the various colliders. And then we have the rigid body, we have the speed that's multiplied. I'm just trying to watch here. So yeah, so then at the start we get the rigid body from the agent. Every frame we reduce the reward by a little bit. So that's just to make it hopefully not be complacent. And then we have a for loop here, which goes through every collider to find the first one that is enabled. And then we take the distance towards that collider from the agent's current position. And then we are basically saying that if the agent is going towards the next checkpoint, we will add 0.02 to the reward. But if it's not moving closer, so if it's just staying in place or moving away even, then we are reducing 0.01 from it. And then we have the untrigger enter, so every checkpoint will give 0.3 to the reward, and the collider will be disabled. And then we are doing the last distance becomes the distance towards the first checkpoint, but that will be overridden in the frame afterwards, so it shouldn't create too much trouble. And then underneath that we have the re-enable colliders, which just goes through the array and enabling all the colliders. This is for the reset when end episode happens. Underneath that we have the reset ball, which resets the agent. I'm not sure why I'm scrolling up. Okay, in my original recording I'm still talking about the distance between agent and collider. Yes, and then we have the rename colliders, and reset ball just moves the agent back in place and makes its velocity 0. So it doesn't move out of the place. So on episode begin, last distance become the distance towards the first collider, and then it resets the ball. This makes sense since it has been put back in place and every collider is enabled, so 0 is the first checkpoint. Then for the sensor, we are giving distance to target. I'm also giving it the velocity. I'm actually giving it the velocity twice, as maybe thing, because I forgot I was already feeding the X and Z velocity to the brain. So it's getting those twice, which probably had something to do with, something to do with some of the issues. And then I'm feeding it the distance to every checkpoint, so it knows what the distance is to every checkpoint down the line. And then on action received, it's allowed to mess with the X and Z velocities, and that's all it's allowed to do. And then I'm checking the distance to target, so if it gets real close to the square, then I'm saying yes, you got close enough to the goal, let's give you 1 reward, and re-enable colliders and end the episode. And then I also say if its position goes below y, below a y of 0, then it has all fallen off the edge, so it gets negative 0.8, which is a very high negative. And then rename colliders in episode, and then I have the little heuristics down there, which was just for my own testing. So back in Unity, I have 3 tests done. I've done 500,000 steps, 900,000 steps, and 4.5 million steps. As you can see, they are aptly named for the amount of steps that they have been given. And then when I scroll down over in the inspector in a bit, yeah. So there you can see the array as well as the models. So right now it's at 500,000k. And let's just see it play out. Yeah. So here we have the 500,000 steps. It learned that it should be moving forward, but it's still very easy for it to fall off the edge. It's starting to do the bend, and a few of the agents here in this scene does have some success in actually getting around. But yeah, it's very much not consistent. It's going off the edges, seemingly in much the same places. But there may be some variance in the values that the brain noticed, which makes it go seemingly the same way. There we go. Okay, so now we are gonna try the 900,000 steps. So as you can see, it's moving much slower than before, and it's actually slowly starting to make its way around. Like the one I just pointed at actually made it all the way up to that corner. So overall 400,000 more steps, and it has learned that maybe it shouldn't go so fast that it's just going off the edge. And it's definitely more consistent about getting up to the corner. But it's still falling off after it hits the checkpoint up there. And for some reason it really likes that section right there, and I'm not sure what makes it find that section to be so nice. In a moment when we go over to the 4.5 million steps, you'll also see how it really likes that corner, or well, that place as a safe spot, and I'm not entirely sure why. As mentioned in the code, it's losing reward over time. It's losing reward when it goes away from checkpoint, and it's only gaining reward when it goes towards the checkpoint or hits one. So here we have the 4.5 million. So as you may have noticed on lots of these agents already, they found out that if they had enough speed, they could make it over to the other side of that little hole. So one of the first things to do moving forward would be to place a collider and making sure that it doesn't just go over to the other side. And as you can already see, lots of these agents have already gone to a single spot and just stays there. Again, I'm not entirely sure why. It should be gaining reward by going towards the next checkpoint. Maybe it's because I'm giving it more reward than the timer reduces. So if it's just making minuscule movements towards the next checkpoint, it's actually gaining points over time. And this is potentially what the issue is. So the fact that it's just very slowly moving towards the next checkpoint, it's actually gaining reward over time, whereas I was supposed to have it reduced over time because of the 0.001 F, I think it was. So that's probably one of the issues with why it finds it to be finds it to be fine staying in one space, because it's simply just inching towards the next checkpoint, actually still getting reward. And that's also one of the things I could see on the graph, is that it had a very high reward at one point, followed by a big chunk just falling off 10,000 steps later. And since it was a lot of steps I wanted to do, I didn't actually observe the whole process. It took over an hour. But yeah, so this is where I'm at right now. I managed to actually get it to go around the bend. Next time I should definitely make a collider in the hole there, so it can't just go over to the other side. That's definitely one of the issues right now, is that it just jumped over and then went around. But yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm actually fairly happy with what I managed to do, having no prior experience with Unity MLAgents. So yeah, this was my first attempt at making it learn something. Curricular learning could probably be a good thing to use, because what it seems like is it doesn't understand what I want it to do. It doesn't actually go to the goal. It just like moves around seemingly blindly. But yeah, that's it for now. Hopefully I can actually at some point manage to teach it how to go around the whole bend. As it is right now, it seems like it just doesn't want to go over the long path. And I'm not, as mentioned a few times now, I'm not entirely sure why. It should have rewards making it go towards it. But yeah,